Welcome to the 2026 A Year of Quilts from Studio 180 Design. Look at this lovely calendar that Studio 180 Design has created, and each month they are highlighting one of their favorite, most popular patterns. And it's May, and we're doing the Fiesta quilt. Hi, I'm Allison from Meadow Quilting. And I challenged myself this year to work with the patterns that are available from Studio 180 Design and to do a border quilt. I started off in January with the wedge star, with the wedge, and then I've done the V blocks with corner pops, and I've done 2 months worth of star 60 blocks, different layouts and arrangements in different sizes. This month, we're working on May, the Fiesta quilt. So the Fiesta quilt uses the Split Rects tools and the corner pop tools. Now, we've already used the corner pop, and we're going to take it up a notch and use it again. All of the patterns have a color image, and also they have what they call unit summaries. These are the two units that we would be making for this quilt. And I've had a look at the pattern and I can see that if I sew these two units together, I'm going to get a square block. So that is going to be my goal. Here are my fabric choices that I'm using. I'm using up my hand-dyed fabric scraps as well as some yardage that I dyed in sort of a peachy neutral color. I'm not too sure which fabric I'm going to use for which parts, but we'll see how it goes. One of the advantages of the Studio 180 Design tools that they are multi-size. So the pattern is giving us measurements for a specific size of unit, but we have access to instruction sheets. There's an instruction sheet that comes with your tool when you purchase it. I like to print up a PDF downloadable copy free from the website, studio180.net. And it gives me the option to do multiple sizes. So I'm going to look here. Let me grab my pen. And I think that I am going to do a 3-inch unit. I'm working through and I'm doing a 2 or 3 inch border. So these star 60 units were done with a 3-inch border, and I'd like to keep it square. So I'm going to do a 3-inch border around here. So what I need to do is I need to use the cut size of my unit. So this will be my finished size. And then my triangle strip I will need to cut, and triangle pairs per strip. So I just need to cut triangle strips. So I'm going to do that unit first. And then once I've got all of these units made, I'm going to jump over and do the pops. All right, let's get started. I have determined that I want my rectangles to be 3 inches wide or 3 inches tall. So I'm going to look at this chart right here. And if I look, it says 1.5 by 3.5 inch finished unit or 1.5 by 3 inch finished unit. I'm going to cut my strips at 4 inches. Then I'm going to stack all my layers. So I have my background and my star units or my rectangles, and I'm going to line up. Let's get it into position right here. Square it up. Then I'm going to cut. Then I'm going to rotate for my second strip. So there's a little line right here. Okay, there's a little line, and I want that on the cut edge, and I want right like that. And I'm just going to work my way across. The advantage is that I'm using hand-dyed fabrics. If I was using a commercially printed fabric, I would take all these layers and stack them so the same side is facing up. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to sew these together. Before I actually sew, I want to show you when we sew these together, we need to end up something like that. When I'm going to sew these together, I want to leave a little ear at the top and a little ear at the bottom. And if I match it up perfectly, I'm going to have a 1/4 of an inch overlap and a 1/4 of an inch overlap. Okay? What we're going to do is one of them is going to get rotated. We're going to put a triangle on, and that's going to be our completed block unit or unit. So I need to trim these down. Let's trim them. I'm going to start off with my pink one, and I'm going to trim right-handed, and then I will show you left-handed. So I have a diagonal line running through, and what I want to do is I just want to line up that diagonal line. Nothing fancy, just lining it up. I'm going to trim that side off. Rotate. Let's get that straight. That diagonal line is still there, but now I'm going to use this 3.5 to 2.5 inch line because I don't want things to be exactly to the corner. I'm going to be cutting those corners off. So let's trim that off. Let's trim that off. And you can see that I've got flat ends here. Let's trim left-handed. This time, my unit is straight up and down. I'm going to line that diagonal line, rotate, line up that diagonal line, and the 2 and the 3.5. Then we're good. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the corner. So this is where I need my corner pop tool, my corner pop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting off 1.5 inches. Now, on this side, the bottom side here, there are 2 sets of cutaway numbers. 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. On this side, it's 3/4, 1/4, 3/4, 1/4. We're going to do 1.5, and we're just going to line it up just like that. Then I'm going to cut a square that is 2 3/4. Now, because I had 2 strips, 2 pieces, I have 4 squares. And I'm going to sew this triangle onto that cutaway. So let's have a look at it on this side. Sorry, green on green, not a good choice. But you can see there how that sits. Don't worry, this triangle is oversized. That's what we want. Let me sew it. I'm going to press it. And then what I'm going to do is instead of using these 2 sides, I'm going to use this corner. Let's get it rotated around the right way. I'm cutting left-handed. Let's cut right-handed. So I'm going to put my triangle up in the top right. I'm going to lay down my 1.5 inch line because I cut away 1.5 inches. And I'm going to square it up with the edge of my fabric. And I'm going to trim. I'm going to close my cutter. All right, so there is my unit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew those two together. Let's sew it. And I'm going to press to my big triangle. And there is my 3-inch unit. I'm going to do this a number of times and then we'll put it together and make that border. I've sewn my units and now I have to arrange them. The Fiesta pattern asks for us to arrange our units like that. Well, I don't want to make a 6-inch block. I just want to have a 3-inch border. So what I'm going to do is arrange in pairs, and we'll see how that looks. Maybe. So I've done my border for my row, and I changed it up a little bit because I can. So what I'm going to do is that piece is going to go on there, and I've added a little spacer on the end. Then my other one will go on to the other side, and I've got a square that will go in to the corner. Let's sew it together. Well, there is my May Fiesta blocks. I use the Split Rects and also the corner pop tool and created just a little bit, looks a little flighty, doesn't it? A little bit of a border on there. I need to add my zinger, my 1-inch zinger, and then for June is going to be a real challenge. So join me. Happy quilting.